Okay, got the camera rolling, so everybody that's on Facebook, hi. Okay, we're going to get started here in Adventure Racing 101, class number 4. So welcome everybody to the 4th and final installment of How to Be an Adventure Racer in 4 short, easy classes. We're going to talk today about food/nutrition, and then also kind of go through race day strategy, so kind of how to manage your Friday map preparation and like time and packet pickup and all that on Friday evening, and then how to set yourself up before the race for the bike drop, and then kind of during the race, just some helpful pointers. And Earl will be here in a minute, but he's at the front door kind of directing everyone this way because we're in the conference room, not the library as usual. So I think we got an attendance sheet running around. Yep. And just check your name off, and then if your name is not on the list, make sure to sign in case there's any like last minute revelations that I need to email you about after class. Don't want to be left out for those, so just check in. Okay, so I'll just kind of jump in, and then Earl will join us when he's done shepherding all of our new attendees into the conference room. But just to kind of get started with nutrition, I'm actually kind of sad he's not here right now because Earl and I have very different approaches to how we manage our race nutrition. If you kind of, as maybe you've gotten to know me, you kind of know that I'm organized. I'm an engineer by education, and that's my job. My real job on the side of doing race directing. So I kind of approach race nutrition from a very analytical perspective. Most of the times I do a little Excel spreadsheet for my races. I use between 200 and 250 calories an hour, so I'll put at the top of the spreadsheet like, okay, this race is 24 hours times 250 calories. This is how many total calories I should bring. And when I first started racing, I even kind of like broke things down into carbohydrates, proteins, and fats to make sure I was getting like balanced mix of all of those kind of qualities in different food. So specifically I was trying to bring a lot more protein and fat because it's really easy to bring a whole bunch of carbohydrates with all the like bars and kind of processed foods. So that's where I started from a spreadsheet point of view. And since I've been racing, I kind of have gotten a little bit more comfort level with how many calories things are, what's the mix between protein, fat, and carbohydrate. So I've gotten a little bit better about just eyeballing something, but I still do spreadsheets, especially for the bigger races. Like when we went to Worlds, I had this whole thing because you balance your race food during the event with also your food in transition area, because sometimes your transition area can be 6 hours long because you're sleeping, you're having 2 really good meals. So I just, my comfort level is the spreadsheet. So whenever I'm, have a problem to solve, that's kind of how I solve it. So that's one approach to your race day nutrition. Kind of, I'm on the smaller end of the scale as far as racer size. So kind of starting with 200, 250 calories an hour. Maybe someone larger than me could handle 300 or 350. So it just kind of depends on your size, your tolerance to eating while racing, how fast you want to go. If you're kind of sprinting the whole time, then you're not going to be able to ingest 300 calories and like process it and use that energy. So you just kind of think about that as you're planning your food. Do you want to talk about how you do food? I'm glad you're here because I like you to explain your food strategy.
My food strategy is not nearly as engineered as Emily's. So for a 6 to 8 hour race, you're going to be kind of looking at, I just look at it as a bar an hour or a candy bar an hour, those kind of things. If you have a decent breakfast on Saturday, probably the first hour or two, probably not going to need a whole lot. But it's everybody's going to be carrying too much. Everybody's going to carry too much food, and I'm more guilty than anybody else of carrying too much food. but it's nice for me to, it's a mental thing for me to have a little extra, and also to be able to share with other people on your team. But like for longer races, 24-hour races, those kind of things, basically Ziploc sandwich bag, cram as much as that as I can in there, and that's good for 6 to 8 hours. And then if it gets really complicated, Emily's nice enough to help me out. She's got a nice spreadsheet for all that, and that's...
She factors in your...
The Earl,
Earl extra.
How many sandwich bags per day? Like, yeah, exactly. Thanks. Just kind of like a funny, like, I mean, obviously we love adventure racing, but when we were getting ready for Wyoming, we didn't really know how long the course was going to be. We thought anywhere from, 4 to 6 or 7 days. So fortunately, they gave us the race company Adventure Enablers. They gave us a kind of logistics planner a couple weeks out before the race. So we were able to tell, like, okay, we're going to start on foot for 2 hours. They would give us a speedy time and a back of the pack time. So we could kind of gauge, like, where our ability levels are and how long we're going to be on each leg. So they helped us plan our packing. But anyway, so we had like 12 or 13 different legs. So in our kitchen on the floor, we had 12 or 13 small boxes, and then I went through all my food, and it took me a couple hours, like, placing items in boxes, and then writing the calorie total on the box flap, and like, then we need more boxes for the TAs, and blah, blah, blah. So I had that whole process laid out, transfer it into Ziploc bags, label it, put your name, initials, all that stuff. It was like a work of art. And then I don't know how you got me to do your food too.
I negotiated different things.
Yeah.
Like bike work.
Oh, he packed my bike. So then I got to do his food too.
Packing clothes and some other things. So it's just we complement each other in many different ways. So it's just kind of like that to me is just like stuff I really don't care to do. But it's like packing the boats, packing the paddles, getting the bikes ready, doing gear for a 5 to 7 day race it's a process. For you, getting ready for Saturday is a process. I mean, the first time you're ever doing something, it's a process. So that's part of the reason we've been doing these classes, but tonight, hopefully we can get you some helpful pointers so that it's pretty painless to do that.
Yeah, so let's kind of, focus on Saturday. 8-hour total race. We expect, this is the same every year, we expect the winning team to be about 4 hours. So kind of factor your team's expectations in. If you're towards the front of the pack, expect to be done 4 to 6 hours. If you're, back of the pack, think 6 to 8 hours you'll be out there. So plan your food accordingly to that. If I was planning for a mid-pack effort, 6 hours, I would take 6 times 200. Okay, I need 1,200 calories. I'm going to put some of those in drink mix in a bottle on my bike, and then I'm going to put some of those in snacks in my pack pockets or my pants pockets. So just kind of use that as a framework to think about what you're going to bring. Something also to think about is when you're going to be eating these items. When I started adventure racing, I kind of didn't think about how you're able to eat trekking versus how you're able to eat paddling and biking. So if you think about it, when you're trekking, that's the easiest time that you have to eat, especially if you're not navigating. You're going to have both hands probably free if you're not using trekking poles, so you can, get stuff out of your pack really easily, get stuff out of your teammates' pack really easily, and eat and trek, and things are great. If you're paddling, on the other hand, you have a paddle. Well, kayak paddles, you have your paddle, both hands all the time. Canoe paddles, you still have both hands on the paddle all the time. So it's really hard to paddle and eat without screwing up the rhythm in your boat. So plan on, before you start the paddle, having a snack or two, and then try to stretch out as long as you can in the boat without eating, just because it's going to be disruptive. You're going to have to stop And even though like the current does kind of carry you, so on some arguments paddle's a great place to eat because you get to move without any effort, but you're still not moving very fast. So just kind of take a couple of preparatory snacks before you start in the boat, and then once you're in the boat, you don't really need to worry about eating. And then biking, we talked about last time, the bento box on your bike. It's a really great place to put snacks or any sort of attachment into your bike to have snacks in the cockpit, either on the handlebars or the top tube. But the kinds of foods that you can eat easily on the bike are like big chunks of stuff. So like, I love peanut M&Ms. It's one of my favorite race food, but it's like terrible to eat on the bike because you have to like open the bag, they're all jumbling around, and you're trying to like steer your bike, and then you're trying to like eat, and you only get like 3 of the M&Ms in your mouth, and the rest of them kind of go flying. So just like smaller trail mix types items, keep those for your trekking portions of the race, and then kind of the larger like bars or sandwiches or waffles, like keep those on the bike, because they'll just be easier to like, okay, grab one thing, shove as much as I can in my mouth, eat it, and it's like get back to biking. So that's kind of what I think about when I decide different things to bring on different legs.
So if you were, for me, if I was doing this race, the pouch.
You're in a Talon 33,
Talon
everybody.
33. Osprey. Put what I can here. And then if I had sandwiches or larger items, those would go back here.
And this really nice outer pouch that's easy for teammates to grab.
So it's like, this would be accessible. It's like, all right, I want a sandwich, or we're going to share sandwiches. I don't have to take my pack off. It's super easy for my teammates to grab. Just super efficient versus having it buried in the bottom of your pack, and you're like, oh, I really wish I had that. Okay, let's stop for a couple minutes. I want to get a sandwich out. The thing is that those types of things, going into the paddle, you're probably going to want them in a dry bag or something so that they're not super wet. But, just simple stuff like that just is going to make it a little bit speedier. And then, you'll have your hydration with you as well in a system like this.
You wanna talk about some of your favorite things to eat during a race?
Sure. Alright, so Halloween's kind of come and gone, so most of that leftover candy from your trick-or-treaters is probably gone. But paydays, Take Fives, Snickers, the little bite-sized ones. Yeah, I know you like them too. Those are just a inexpensive go-to race food for me and training food. For sandwiches, I can't tell you the brand, but it's basically the Hawaiian roll, so it's like super buttery. They're in the deli section, kind of an orangish, reddish package. They make them in like a hamburger bun, or they make it in like a little sandwich-sized stuff, some turkey, some cheese, those kind of things. Just cram them into a little, I use the Ziploc snack bag, and you can smash it and compress it, and super moist, so it's easier to get down when your throat is dry. It's just normal breads. After a while, you just don't have enough saliva to choke it down, so those just go down a little bit easier. Or just use the small tortillas, and you can do turkey, you can do peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and honey, all those types of things. Getting you outside of the normal fun stuff like this. These work great too. For an 8-hour race, I might just use stuff like this. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, should be warm enough that all our food isn't freezing on Saturday at this point in time. If it's really cold, that's another thing you want to think about, is just making sure that stuff you have isn't going to break your teeth when you're trying to eat it. What else is on there?
Waffles, scratch chews.
So These are always one of my go-tos. Even when my stomach's messed up, these are bland enough that you can get them down.
When we say bland in like Food Adventure Racer, bland is like a good thing. You know, especially kind of as you get to the end of the race, duration, whatever that duration is, you kind of just want simple foods. They're not gonna make your stomach go crazy. So one of the like biggest compliments I wrote to a bar manufacturer was like, your bars are bland, and that's a really good thing. And they're like, what? Like, no, let me explain. Like, it's like you can eat them anytime. You don't have to like prepare yourself to eat a really sweet or flavorful bar. You just want something nice and easy.
And these we've been carrying at the shop here for about a little over a year or two. It's kind of a combination of like a butter brickle, crunchy with a little bit of sweet, but enough salt. So just enough to mix up. These are basically, it's a Cliff product, but it's kind of like soft baby food. And it's calories.
And regular baby food in those nice pouches works great too. If you want, sometimes I want to feel healthy and like, oh, I'm eating pears and broccoli together. So I look for like 10 for 10 at the grocery store and grab some of those little baby food pouches. They're kind of heavy if you're carrying a lot of them, so like don't make your entire race food baby food because it's a lot of water content. But from time to time, they're really nice and they make you. I feel healthier because I'm eating vegetables, so it's good.
And then you can mix it up with sugar, different gummy stuff. We've got the honey stinger. Goo makes them. Sometimes we'll just make our own. You want to go above and beyond with Sour Patch Kids, some rainbow stuff, and Peachios, and you just spin it all together and put it in a bag, and we call it Sugar Surprise. You just always taste is different, and in the summer sometimes it gets hot enough to just become one gooey glob, and you just kind of break it apart. It's super tasty, but what else we got here? Then the goos. I'm sure everybody's familiar with these. These are a quick one hit, 250 calorie.
100.
Or 100 calories.
120.
120. But sometimes for me, if I all of a sudden get cramps or something like that, one of these and a couple of electrolyte pills can kind of push that through a little bit faster sometimes if you get lucky. Scratch is a drink powder. There's other different powders out there. Again, Scratch. I like to mix a couple of the different Scratch Labs together. Gatorade just got to be too much sweet. It's kind of like Gatorade, this, and a couple other sugary things. Obviously, you just get into a sugar overload.
And your mouth is like coated in it, and you just cannot stand the thought of one more grain of sugar.
And Scratch gives you just enough taste, but not too much taste. You just don't have that sugary and stuff. These are. Want to talk about those?
Yeah. So I Am Energy actually sponsored our race 2 years ago. And they're not this year, but I just still want to kind of shout them out because they're a St. Louis company. They're little tablets, and there's 5 of them in a pack, and it's some caffeine and then some vitamins and amino acids all combined in there. So I like to carry caffeine. I drink a ton of coffee in my regular life, so I always like to have caffeine with me on the course just for, like, if I feel like I'm losing focus or, time for the final 5-mile sprint to the finish. I just like to have something with me that will be a nice caffeinated boost. So that also varies from people to people. But if you're looking for a nice caffeine supplement, I Am Energy has a good one. Otherwise, it's incorporated into a lot of, like, some gels and not bars really, but some gummies too.
Yeah, some of that stuff will have a little caffeine kick to it. I also carry like Excedrin. It has a double that's kind of a double win-win because it's an anti-inflammatory as well as caffeinated, and it doesn't not heavy to carry. So 8-hour race probably not going to need a whole lot, but when you're doing the 24-hour stuff,
3 a.m. You need something.
especially if you're navigating, you want to make, you can tell, I don't navigate, but I can tell in the navigator, you want a little Excedrin? Oh yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, and it works. It just simple little things like that.
Okay, we already talked about keeping your food accessible, just in your hip pouches, easy open pockets in your pack. Make sure to tell your teammates where your food is at in case they need to get it for you. Unless you're like taking off your jacket or adjusting layers or something during the race, you really shouldn't have to take your pack off. Especially not when you're moving. And the TA is like, okay, we'll let you take your pack off. But in general, like you should be asking your teammates to help you with your pack, just so you can all keep moving faster during the event. We talked a little bit about hydration, but just want to make sure that you remember we've talked about food. You also need to factor some sort of water or liquid into your plan. Some people are just water only, that's totally fine. Some people need sports drink mixed into all of their liquid serving containers, either bottles or a bladder. That's fine too. If you do put powder in a hydration bladder, just make sure to clean it out really well after the race, because that has a tendency to grow into a fantastic forest of mold. So just clean your stuff out after the race. And then remember too, like water's really heavy, so when you get the sheet and the maps the night before, just make sure to kind of like look at the whole course and understand how much water you need to start with, and then how much water you need to have at the bike drop, and kind of balance those things out so you're not carrying, 5 liters of water for the first section, which might be only 20 minutes, and then you see your bikes, and then you just like weigh yourself down for a little bit. So just kind of think about how you're going to plan for water, and don't carry too much, but also don't carry too little. Just carry the perfect amount, whatever that is for you. And it's probably going to be a little bit warmer than normal on race day, so you might want to add a couple, 10 to 20 ounces to what you normally would drink, just because it's going to be comfortably warm, I think.
And so, but there will not, okay, so you'll have a bike drop, you can leave, bike bottles and that kind of stuff there, but don't, remember, everything you leave there you're taking with you. So if you leave anything, it's got
Gallons of water.
don't bring gallons of water because you're not taking it with you. Or you're going to drink it all right there, or whatever. But
Or dump it out and you're going to take the container with you.
You're going to take the container with you. So it's kind of like, if you're like concerned about it, and you're a 4-person team, and you wanted to, you really shouldn't need a lot of extra if you plan accordingly.
And then just one question that came up kind of one of our previous classes. We do not supply you with any food or any water on course. You're totally self-sufficient. There will be a note in the pre-race notes that you get on Friday, highlighting if there are any convenience stores close to the course or on the course. In the past, I think we were like 50-50. One year we had them and one year we didn't. If in general, any support that's available to the public, you can also take advantage of. But you can't have secret staged food packets, hidden and waiting for you. You can't have your family member meet you in a van and give you all IVs, or any other food or water. You just really need to start the race with everything that you need, either on your pack or at your bike drop, or have a plan to, visit some other public location that has food or water. But
So-
support. Yes.
Sorry. If we have a disposable water bottle on our bike that we're hoping to put into our bladder, can we throw that away for an extra trash can?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a public trash can.
You said take it all with you. I just don't want to.
Yep. If there's
These guys beat me up because they're disqualified.
Right, so if you happen to go by, we don't want to fill our parks garbage cans, right away, but it's like, yes, if there's dumpster in the facility or you're biking by a public garbage can, okay. The first residential place that accidentally leaves their garbage can out, we're not filling that because that's basically on private property. So that is not accessible. But public garbage cans are. But, you know.
Just from our perspective, like, we don't want to be done at the bike drop and have, 5 huge garbage bags of empty containers to take care of. We don't want the landowners or the park managers to be dealing with all of our trash. So just kind of think about that when you're preparing. I don't think we'll have an issue, but just consider we're not hauling out 250 people's water bottles. So.
For longer races, do you bring iodine or some sort of water filtration usually?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you are welcome to bring that for this race too. Obviously, you'll be on the Merrimack River at some point. There's not a ton of other water, or at least reliable water, on the course. And most public water fountains have been turned off for the winter. But yeah, if you feel like you're going to need a significant amount of water to get through the day, pull it from the river, treat it, drink up.
Once you get the race instructions on Friday, it's going to be pretty clear. If you have questions, chime in on our Facebook Live happy meeting. Yeah. You'll get more details on that.
Okay, so leave no trace, bottom line, and then just remember to eat a good breakfast on Saturday. You're gonna be getting up early, going to the bike drop. Race doesn't start till 8. Sometimes I find it's really hard to eat a breakfast that early in the morning, but just really try to get something into your system, like a cup of coffee, and we like to do bagels and peanut butter and bananas, like pretty simple, donuts, oatmeal, eggs, whatever your kind of go-to breakfast is. You don't need to get fancy, but just put something in your system first thing in the morning. And then also it might not hurt to have a snack with you, because between getting up, going to the bike drop, going to Race HQ, getting all like sorted and ready to go, that could be a couple hours. So you might want to snack like another piece of toast or a bar or something right before the start. So just maybe think about that so you're not starving from the first minute. Okay, any other questions about food? Yes.
Should we force ourselves to eat, or should we only eat when we're like starting to feel hungry?
Great question. I would never force myself to eat unless I like really understood. I guess it kind of comes down to like knowing your body. When I'm not hungry, I'm not hungry. Like, that's what it is. And usually eating is gonna probably upset my stomach. But then there's like kind of comes a point where it's like, okay, I haven't been eating for 12 hours. I gotta get like a piece of bread or something really bland again, like the good bland, get some of that down. So when you first feel maybe nauseous or not like eating, I would not force it, but if that continues for more than a couple hours,
My first adventure is
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So the main thing is to stay ahead of your calories. So
oh, yeah.
the first couple of hours you're going to be like, oh man, this is great, we're flying and everything's great, and you're not hungry just because you're not thinking about it. And then it's kind of like, okay, now all of a sudden 3 hours has come and gone, and you're like, uh-oh, I didn't eat anything. That's the time to get ahead of it. And even though you're not hungry, you need to start bringing in calories, because at hour 4, 5, and 6, now all of a sudden you've gone into the red zone, and that's where you tend to what they call bonk. Everybody knows what that kind of means.
You feel terrible, no energy, you're crabby.
And then your teammates need to pick you up and carry you, and they'll get you through it. But that's, if you can start eating before you hit that point, yeah. So, I mean, that, to me, that's not forcing yourself to eat, that's reminding yourself, oh, I haven't eaten anything for 2 hours, I should start eating stuff. So it's kind of like, at that point in time, if you can get 200 to 400 calories, like boom, 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 get them going and get that push through. That's, is that kind of,
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, so it's just kind of
my
like
first race was.
Can you like share? Would you mind sharing?
I did 9 to 5 in Iowa last year on
John's race.
no training. It was kind of just, hey, you want to do this thing? Okay, I'll do this thing. And I bonked so hard after 4 hours.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I was nauseous, vomiting, weak. I finished.
Good job.
I crawled across the finish, but I've been trying to nail down some kind of nutrition
Right.
plan because I had a real problem eating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I packed a variety of salty and sweet. I'm not a huge gel and goo
No.
fan because I have a really sensitive stomach, so I just kind of tend to stick to real food if I can.
Yeah.
But even that, just
Not
I don't know.
good
It just-
combination. Yeah. And that's Earl's advice is really good. And it actually reminded me when it's kind of one of my earlier. There used to be a cool duathlon down at Berryman where you biked like a 10-mile loop and ran a 4-mile loop, and you did that for like multiple hours. And I was getting ready to do that and reading. Like I'm an engineer, I research everything, so I'm reading about race nutrition. And kind of the best holistic advice was when you feel good, eat something. Like, don't wait for bad feelings to come to remind yourself to eat. Like, if you're trucking along, you're feeling good, like, oh, I'll have a Snickers bar. Keep going, you're feeling good, half an hour later, like, I'll have a sandwich. Like, just kind of, always remind yourself, and then also remind your teammates, especially your navigator, because your navigator is going to be, like, pretty clued into the maps and focused on that, and their hands are going to be full. So anytime you're eating something, remind, hey everybody, are you hungry? You should eat something. And then physically hand some food to your navigator so that they don't have to put down the map or anything.
And sometimes we've just set a countdown timer on watches to just beep every hour, hour and a half, just because, it's like, this race it won't be that big a deal, but for longer stuff, it's like you never pay attention to time, and all of a sudden another hour went by and nobody ate. So it's kind of like little things like that we can do. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to, as a team, to remind each other. It's just one of those things, and just assign one person to say, let us know every hour. Same thing with drinking too. You're not thirsty, and then all of a sudden you went down in your hydration side too. So just simple things.
What other questions?
And I will add that I don't know if it'll help anybody else, but I do have a sensitive stomach, and scratch and tailwind are both awesome
Yeah.
for sensitive stomachs.
Like nice and neutral, not too many calories
The
sloshing
flavor
down
is
there.
not overwhelming. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I always
Bland in a good way.
And I always carry Tums to help settle funny stomachs. They normally, and they work,
So good.
they taste yummy, but for the most part, they're very fast acting, so it can kind of neutralize that 10-15 minutes most of the time. Maybe it's all mental, I don't know, but it's just like yummy Tums, get a couple of those in and okay.
Another St. Louis company.
So, and just carry one of those little rolls, put that in your bag, and just one for the team is all you need, because you really can't consume that many of them, and you're not supposed to anyway. But if somebody's having a funny tummy, pop those out, boom, hold them through.
Other food questions? Okay. We're just going to run through race day strategy. So kind of setting yourself up for starting Friday night is really when your race. You can just tell her to lay down.
It's alright.
Your,
I don't have a dog anymore, so.
for those of you on Facebook, our dog is here, and she's just paying very close attention to our participants and making sure they feel welcome. So that's what you're missing out by being home. So Friday, we're going to have packet pickup here in this very same room in the conference room. It'll be starting at 4 o'clock. It goes until 8. There's no prize for getting here first. But we do want to have I mean, you do want to get your maps as early as you can, just so you have all that extra time to work on them. So get your team together. Only one person needs to be here per team, as long as you have all your waivers signed, which you did during the registration process. So unless you had some last-minute switcheroos, you should be good to just send one person to packet pickup. I know there's at least one team that's coming in from out of town that won't be here in time, so they've already emailed me and told, made other arrangements. So if you need to make other arrangements, just let me know. So you'll come here, you'll get a bag with all of your maps, your clue sheet, a whole bunch of instructions for the bike drop, how to get to the starting line, because you won't know that till Friday. Any other pertinent information. You'll get directions to the post-race party, which is kind of exciting. We're trying that new this year. So you'll get all that stuff Friday night. And then we just really suggest you find a nice quiet place to go plot your maps. You'll have, I can't remember exactly about 30 checkpoints that you'll need to plot with your UTM plotter. So just find a quiet place. Restaurants are kind of hit or miss because they're usually dim lighting and you want really nice bright lighting. So find some place that's quiet, that has good lighting. Some people even bring like a headlamp just to plot their map to make sure that they can see. So do that as early as you can. It usually helps to have kind of a two-person system, so like Earl will read the coordinates out and then I will use the plotter and mark it on the map. And you can kind of double check each other. If you're a four-person team, you can even have your other two teammates double check that you're in the correct box as you go around plotting your map, because that's like the worst feeling in the world to... We actually did this at Nationals. I plot usually and I misplotted at Nationals, so like we're paddling along kind of like it was on a lake or a reservoir. We're like kind of veering to one side of the lake and all of the other boats are going to the other side of the lake, and it's just like, we can kind of see this happening, so we're paddling along and it's like it's not making sense, it's weird, I don't know, and then we're like, just check the map. So pulled out the map, pulled out the clue sheet, checked it. I was a kilometer to the south and the checkpoint was actually 1 kilometer to the north. So fortunately we weren't too far committed. We could just like veer back and go get that checkpoint. But it does happen, but if you can be careful, have your teammates check you, just make sure you plot correctly. So that's kind of your first order of business on Friday.
And what is the UTM plotter again?
Actually, you have one, right? Yeah.
That's a good one.
So it's a little piece of plastic, and you can actually make your own, but it just helps to have this nice clear plastic plotter. Yes, we do. So what you'll do is you'll get coordinates, so an X coordinate and a Y coordinate, or in UTM language it'll be a northing and an easting, or easting for X and northing for Y. And you'll basically just kind of find each point on the map using this tool to help you measure each point's coordinates, and then you put a little dot where the checkpoint is. Typically we circle that dot and then write the number next to it so you know where you're going. And then when you're marking up your maps, it's really a balance and you just kind of learn as you go, but you want to strike a nice balance between writing down enough information so you know what you're looking at versus writing down too little information so you don't know what you're looking at, versus writing down too much information so all you have is scribbles all everywhere and you can't see the contour lines on the map. So just, there you go, thank you. When you're marking up your maps, maybe take a first stab at it and just like, okay, go through the points and number them, and then take a second pass and think, okay, do I need to write down any clue descriptions or anything else on my map that would help the navigator while we're out on the course. And you can use, before the race, you can use any kinds of outside maps that you want, mostly because with our style of race we can't enforce internet usage or non-usage on Friday night. So if you want to pull up Google Maps and Google Map the entire course and zoom in on aerial photos and look at things, you can. But anything that you use during the race has to be already written on your race map by you. So you can't print out an entire 3D printed like satellite image of the race course and use that to navigate. Like, you need to use a race map when you're navigating. If you want to take the time to like write down any information, street names, distances, landmarks, you're more than welcome to on Friday night, but like race starts Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, race maps only, plus notes that you've handwritten. Yes?
How big is the race map?
Great question. You'll get a couple maps. The biggest one is 18 inches by 24 inches. And the other, at least one other map will be 11 by 17. And there might be more.
You said we need a waterproof map bag, or?
Mhm. Yep.
So it's not a waterproof map necessarily.
The main map that you'll get is a waterproof map, but the you might get additional information that is not waterproof, so you need to have a way to keep that safe. So we sell waterproof map bags out on the floor. A Ziploc is also a waterproof map bag.
1 gallon or 2 gallon Ziploc bags work just fine, but you need to make sure, whether it's a purchased map bag or a Ziploc bag, you need to make sure that you get it zipped and get as much air out of it as possible, because that's your leak if you don't do that properly. So they're just, sometimes some of them are kind of tricky to do that.
Do you guys recommend, instead of using the UTM, you can use your Silva compass and just use the edges on that? They're all marked on there.
Yeah, I mean, you can use, there's, like, UTM's plotters are the most convenient way, I think, but during a race, like, I've made a UTM plotter out of a piece of paper. Like, just, you know, take the scale that's on the map, write down the little 100-meter marks, and then transfer it on there. So anything that you have that can measure scale distance on a compass, piece of paper that you make, works for a UTM plotter. Okay, so also in your packet you're going to get an Alpine Shop coupon, so we encourage you to spend that, hopefully Friday night. I'll check if there's an expiration date. I think last year there was, so I'll inform everybody about if there's any expiration dates on coupons. Plot all the CPs that you can that night. If there are maps that you get that overlap each other, I would encourage you to plot all of the CPs that you can on all of the maps that you can. So if you get maps that's, you know, one's like a big map and one's kind of a zoomed in of the smaller area, make sure you have the checkpoints transposed between both of those maps. Everything that we give you before the race will have scales on it, so you can, you know, independently plot both pieces of paper, or you can plot one piece of paper and then transfer it on to the second if you want. But just, you know, it's like there's no, you're off the clock on Friday night. Anything that will provide you with more information on race day is a helpful thing to do. So,
And everything we give you, we're giving you for a reason that will be helpful. There's some races that give you stuff that they're just giving it to you, but everything that we give to you is helpful. So don't try
there's
to
no
read.
tricks.
There's no tricks. This is a race that is designed for everybody to come and have fun and learn. So all the maps that we give you, you're going to want to make marks on them and use them.
Yep. Okay, so I already talked about you can, you know, put your checkpoints on the maps. Once we've done that, I typically like to take a highlighter and highlight the different routes that you're going to take. If you're, I think I brought a map in for our trekking section. If you want to highlight in different colors, blue highlighter for paddling, orange for mountain biking, you know, whatever you want. But just mark up your map and kind of plan your day. Do we have any?
This one's highlighted.
Yeah, this one's from a previous race. Yeah, this is a good one. This is actually a Castlewood race map from one year. So you can kind of see this is actually a race that we handed out, or that we got during the event, so it was pre-plotted, but like, you know, so we've got checkpoints marked in circles, the number that's next to the checkpoint, so you know like which one you're going to, zoomed in. And then we actually wrote, this is David Fry's handwriting, so hi David. The clue next to it, if you're super advanced, you can use orienteering symbology. to write all of your clues. So reentrant is just like a certain kind of squiggle, spur is another couple lines, or you can just use English and like write down the clues. But anyway, so just kind of mark up your map. But like I said, it's really easy. So say for example, like this checkpoint number 8, it's kind of like in a part of the map that there's a lot of detail. So you want to be just careful when you're writing the number 8 that you put it off to the side here. Can everyone see that? So you're just not obscuring detail. So kind of one of the worst things that can happen is like you think you're being all helpful to yourself and you're like writing down all this information, and then you get to the race and you're like, I really want to see what's under that permanent marker that I just wrote on the map. So just kind of be conscientious about that. And then another thing that you can do is add, what's this one called? The waterproofing paper? What's that?
No, contact paper.
Contact paper, yeah. So if you have pieces of paper that are not waterproof that you want to bring with you, put contact paper on them so that they can be a little bit more waterproof and durable on race day. So.
It just comes in rolls. It's like they're like 18 inches or whatever. And you just roll it out, peel the side off, put it down. We use that a lot for like race instructions, those kind of things. Just helps kind of seal stuff up, and it's pretty waterproof.
And then one other thing to think about marking your map is to draw north arrows on it. So when you're, in the race, what I typically do is I like fold up my map kind of small, so I'm only focusing on like one little section of the map. And sometimes it's like easy to get turned around and you kind of forget where north is. It happens. So if you can come and write in these smaller north arrows, kind of in some area of the map that's not being used, and then when you fold it up into different areas, it's like you can kind of keep track of where you are and keep your bearings a little bit better. So that's pretty much it about map prep. Let's see. Have a good dinner. I like to eat pizza before a race. Spaghetti is popular. Just, go with something that you're used to. Don't go crazy and some food that you never tried before. Just nice standard dinner with your teammates if you can. And then also make sure to fill up your car or vehicle with gas. Just because race morning it comes really fast, it's early. You're going to need to drive to the bike drop, drive to headquarters. You might need to drive to a carpool lot because we've got strict parking restrictions. So just make sure you've got a full tank of gas. Just, eases the stress a little bit on race morning. Unless you're kind of the person that needs gas station coffee, then plan to do that in the morning.
All right, so are you I just want to
Take it away.
go into, okay, so pre-race morning starts pre-race night. Just the less stress you can add to yourself in the morning, life is better. Lay out your race clothes the night before. Have your backpack pseudo-packed the night before.
Pin your number on.
Pin your number on, those kind of things. Get as much of that done the night before. Because a lot of your days are going to start at somewhere between 4 and 5 a.m. Saturday morning, which is really early. And it's kind of like you want to hit snooze one more time, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I really need to go. And some of those items that you were going to do when you got up early, now all of a sudden you're behind. So if you can get all those things kind of done. And the breakfast thing, just say you're up at 4:30, you eat, you leave the house. Race doesn't start until 8, so that's like almost a 3 to 4 hour window for most people of just driving around. So breakfast, snack, race, and you'll be good to go. Make sure you have your coffee or your favorite breakfast drinks.
Your Diet Coke.
Your Diet Coke. I'm a Diet Coke person. Those things, you have them. Tank of fuel, and just those things. And then, so you're gonna have to leave your house, meet your teammates at the bike drop, or meet your teammates, then go to the bike drop, and then come to that. Work those things out that night. Somebody has a 4-place bike rack. Obviously, that's your teammate that you're gonna put all 4 bikes on. Not everybody needs to go to the bike drop, so you can divvy up that stuff there too. But figure that out Friday night. Yes, sir.
What time is it? So you're saying it's a lot of time, you have to get up way early before the 8 hours, or before the 8 a.m. start. So you go to the bike drop, is there a certain time you have to be at the bike drop?
So in the pre-race email that was just sent out, did you put that in there or not?
Pretty sure it did.
Okay, so the bike drop opens at 5:45. So if you live really close to where you'll be dropping your bike, you're going to get a little more sleep than the person that lives a little further away. But
There's no camping at the bike drop,
There's no-
so sorry.
So the bike drop is going to be open from 5:45 to 7 a.m. The reason we close it at 7 a.m. is to give you enough time to get to race start, get your bearings, get organized. We have a pre-race meeting at 7:30, and then go. So if you want to be one of those last-minuters and show up at the bike drop at 6:45 and know you have to leave there at 7, that's fine. There's other people that will beat me there at 5:45 because they've been up for 3 hours because they're so excited to race they can't sleep. So, and we're going to get everybody in between. So, and the reason we have such a big window too is we can't get 250 racers in there at one time. We have room, but we just need it to stagger out. And and some teams are going to get there and they're going to drop their bikes off and have their stuff prepped, and they'll be gone in 10 minutes. There's other teams that are going to be there a half hour plus because it's their first time, and it's like, we need to talk about it. They have to take their bikes out of their cars, put the wheels on it, those kind of things. So just build extra time into your race day morning, because everything's going to take a little bit longer than necessary. Going to the bathroom, we're only going to have about 6 to 8 stalls for men and women. So it's like there will be a line to go to the restroom. And where we're at, we don't want people peeing in the woods or on their property. So even going to the bathroom is going to take a little bit longer than what you anticipated. So just simple things like that will make that morning go a little smoother. And then pack clothes for after the race, because most likely the clothes that you're going to have on are going to be wet and sweaty, and I can't sit in wet, nasty bike shorts for more than 5 minutes after I finish. It's just like those need to come off now. So, and I always like to have a pair of sandals for after the race, and then we're going to have a pre-race. We'll have food afterwards at the post-race facility, and then we have our little after party that night. So depending logistically, if you want to go home and then come to the party, or just go right from the finish area to the party.
We don't judge. You don't have to shower.
No.
Come on over.
Just get your stinky bike shorts on. That's
Right,
all.
take your bike shoes off. We will check that at the door, but otherwise, you're free to come on as you are.
So, so you're going to want to have an extra bag of clothes to wear after the race, and maybe a towel to just take a car bath or rinse off there too. So just like little things like that just make that race morning so much easier. Most of you guys don't know it, but your race has already started when you signed up, because it's like some teams are like still trying to figure out a teammate today, or they're dropping a teammate and still jockeying stuff around. So mentally you're racing to do those things, and your race really starts Friday night once you get your maps, and it's a good thing. And just going to be fun buying experience Friday night. It's just Friday night together is going to pull you, start teaching you that teamwork thing, and try to keep it a positive thing.
Yeah. Friday, or any kind of night before a race, it's just really fun. Just hopefully you're racing with friends or people that you want to be friends with. So it's just a really fun time to hang out, Kind of plan your day, visualize what you're going to go through, think about how awesome it's going to be, have some good food. Yeah. Think about the pain. Have a couple beers, like just enjoy your team before the race, and then get ready to have a great race day. So once the race, do you have a question?
It's about kind of the first couple of checkpoints. Is
Yeah.
there going to be bottlenecks at the first couple of checkpoints on a race day, or?
Great question.
Yes.
Probably.
So for those that are viewing, the question in the back of the room was, at the first couple of checkpoints, will there be bottlenecks? We have 250 racers starting the course, and we kind of have it spread out a little bit so that there's going to be kind of a sprint for a little bit before you explode out. There's going to be different ways to go, and we have it designed so that hopefully some go one way and some go another way.
And a third way, and a fourth way.
And a third and a fourth way.
Go
So
crazy.
there's no wrong way, and there's no right way. You just gotta get all four of the, or how many ever there is. So, but we still have 250 people that are going to be together in the first half hour, and then once we get through that, it's going to open up. It's going to open up pretty fast right away. I know 3 years ago we had kind of a little bottleneck, but we're trying to make that better. This year it's going to be better, but there will be a bottleneck a little bit, so just work together, be nice, hand off the passports, be friendly about it, and then it should break out pretty fast. So.
You might go into a little bit more, touched on it last week, but in more detail about handicapping these races as far as when things might get hectic in that situation.
Yeah. So when we say go, just keep in mind, it's 250 people, and you're all kind of going to sort of the same place. So there'll be different options to get there, different places to go, but in general, you're all you're all together all at the start line. You all have to go under the arch. So it's going to kind of be crowded. The number one thing is to keep track of your teammates. So if you have someone that's going to be maybe a faster runner or biker, I don't know if we've said what we're starting with.
Well, yeah, you did because.
We have a bike drop, so we have to start on either
No,
foot or paddle.
You said it in your email.
I did.
Yeah.
We're starting on foot. Okay.
So we're starting on foot. There's gonna be 250 people.
Yeah.
Starting out on a running race.
So the thing to do is just keep track of your people. So if that means calling out people's names, if you want to have roll call 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're here. Just kind of keep your head on a swivel and make sure that you're not leaving anybody behind. Because number one, it's against the rules, and number two, it's very easy to do at the beginning. Everyone's excited. You all kind of look the same with your hats and your Osprey packs on, so just be careful about it and know where you are.
It's funny here because it doesn't sound complicated, but you wait. It's gonna be I don't know where my teammates are.
And that's how you really know.
I have no idea, and it's if everybody can wear neon green or wear a goofy headband or something or a team jersey where you kind of know what to look for, but it's 90% of the people are going to show up in black. So it's and I'm just as guilty, I always wear black. And it's you start looking around and everybody takes off and you're all together and then somebody stops to tie a shoe or gets caught in the crossroads with somebody else and then all of a sudden it's you'll hear it, it's John, where are you? John!
Other John!
Yeah, so just keep that in mind too. And somebody's going to want to wrap it off because they're the fast runner and so.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, so this is my first adventure race, so I'm been covered out there. Are we allowed to have, as long as there's not GPS in any sort of way, walkie-talkies in case we are separated?
Ooh. Sure.
Because I usually travel with walkie-talkies, but
Yeah.
make it sort of, okay.
I've never had that question before. So
Sure.
the question for those of you that are not here was, Are we allowed to have a communication device amongst our team members?
Not with GPS capabilities.
Without GPS capabilities, and also a phone would not count.
Right.
So basically, a handheld walkie-talkie or a two-way radio, which you're not going to use one of those, but you know, if you want to carry handheld walkie-talkies, you can. I've never seen it done before. Really shouldn't be necessary.
But if that's your comfort level,
but
that's what you should do.
If that's what makes you happy, that's fine.
But you noted earlier that you have to be within 50 yards of each other.
Right. 100
You
feet.
have to stick them together.
So-
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, you
Don't
get
don't
lost in the
don't
shuffle.
go there. But
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I remember in the first class, Emily, you talked about on Strava and doing the flyby. So what do? We like start our watch and you seal it up then?
Yeah,
And
so the best way, if you want to track your race with a GPS device, at the starting line before the race, we'll have these little opaque bags. They're not waterproof. Really the best way to do it is to have like a watch that's like analog, so you know which buttons are which, so you just like stick it in the bag, you know where the start button is, and you can just like press start and off you go. Phones are a little different story, but yeah, if you have a way to like kind of feel through the bag where your buttons are, and then you can press start, then you can track it on GPS.
So we could even like switch between bike and run.
I mean, if you know your watch that good, yes, sure.
Yeah. But most people just
Start it and go and not worry
start
about
it, put it away, and it's like it's gonna track your moving time anyway. So you just date it to when you actually started. But yeah, so that's always kind of fun to do that. So yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I guess one other thing when we were just talking about losing your teammates, like that's kind of how you know you've become an adventure racer, is if you have stress dreams about losing your teammates.
It's scary. I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night because it's like, I mean,
I can't find my teammates.
I'm normally the one that's lost, and it's like, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, and it's like, I don't have this, I don't have that, and I can't find my teammates, and yeah, it's just
Dark place.
it's a dark place, but it means you're probably not racing too long too. So
And just when we have started the race, you're all going to be in a clump. You're all going to kind of be going to the same, 2 or 3 or 8 general areas. It's going to be very tempting to want to follow other teams, especially if you're not a strong navigating team. Please recognize that temptation and shut it down and focus on your own team navigation. It's like kind of taking the easy way out to just follow a team around and speak. I think we talked about this a little bit during our navigation clinic, but as a person who has been followed, number one, it's very annoying and rude, and number two, it's very tempting for that lead team to try to pull a sneaky fast one and drop the following team, and then the following team kind of has no idea where they are. So if we suspect a team is following us, we're gonna deliberately take a different route, or stop and tie our shoe and see if they stop and tie their shoe, or just secretly punch the checkpoint and keep going like nothing's happened, and then we get to the fourth one down the line and they're still on number 1. So just don't follow teams unless you say, we're struggling, we need your help, can we please work together? And then if you put it that way, most teams are going to be like, sure, we're struggling too. Let's all work together and get to the next checkpoint. But don't just latch onto another team and mooch off them. Not good. And then kind of the final thing is we have a couple cutoff times during the race. You'll get them in your clue sheet. But we basically want people to kind of move through the course at a reasonable pace, so that number 1, they get to see all the different parts of the course, and number 2, so that we know a couple points during the day when there's hard cutoffs of every team has passed through this point. So if something does go wrong, we have limited our response area. So just pay attention to those cutoff times, write them on your map, make sure someone has a regular watch that they can keep track of those cutoff times. just having a watch out in general, and then obviously our 4 o'clock finish cutoff is the most important one to make. So make sure you're kind of tracking along. In general, if you hit the cutoff times for kind of our mid-race points, you're going to finish no problem, barring any, emergency or catastrophe. So just make sure you're making reasonable progress through the course.
So what you're saying is even if you're missing checkpoints, get to the finish line.
Oh yeah, yep. So there's the only penalty for missing a checkpoint is you don't get credit for that checkpoint. You don't get penalized additional beyond that. So if you're skipping checkpoints, but you're still going to make it to the 4 p.m. finish, you're still going to be ranked just behind the teams that found more checkpoints than you did. But that's really important. We want everyone to finish under their own power so that, number one, we don't have to come get you because we have 2 vehicles between us, maybe room for 6 bikes, and we don't want to send our volunteers out to unknown parts of the course. And then we just want to know that you're safe. So be at the finish line at 4 o'clock. There's some, what ifs after 4 o'clock on the race rules. Basically, if you're not going to make it by 4 o'clock and you're able to call, please call. We just don't want to worry about you. And then if we don't hear or see you by 5 o'clock, that's when we call the emergency responders. So.
And we're supposed to be at the post-race party at 5 o'clock, so
Yeah.
we really don't want to miss
That's the
the
biggest
post-race
thing.
party. Should be making phone calls to EMS people when we can all be there.
Having snacks and beverages and.
So the hard cutoffs are you want to do whatever you can to make those. So it's like if you have to skip 3 or 4 checkpoints to get to that one, then do that so that you're experiencing the most amount of the race. And you'll be happier, we'll be happier, but the way it's set up that as long as you are at, basically we have 2 of them. If you are at those points at that time, you'll be able to be at the finish line by 4 o'clock and have a really positive race experience. If you miss the first one by 2 hours, you really can't, you're just going to miss a lot of the course, even though you maybe have gotten all those checkpoints, but then you missed a lot of the other sections because we'll really have to cut your clip short. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Just
Keep moving.
keep moving.
And then just kind of our final point, things are going to go wrong. Expect something to go wrong, maybe 2 things, maybe 10 things, maybe every single checkpoint is going to go wrong. It's okay. That's part of the sport is that, as long as we've been racing, I don't think we've ever had this perfect race experience. It's all about figuring out what to do when you get lost, when you're cold, when you're hungry, when your bike has a flat tire. Anything that can go wrong, be prepared for it. Be prepared to ask for help from your teammates. Your teammates are going to be prepared to give you that help. And just, that's what the sport is all about, is, navigating and experiencing some really cool parts of the country and parts of the state. But then also, kind of taking whatever gets thrown your way, saying, no problem, we got this, fixing that issue, and then just moving on to the next one. So.
Yeah, a flat tire is a perfect example. It's you can be really upset about, I got a flat tire. I mean, it's a bummer. But all of a sudden you can also say, okay, I have a flat tire, let's make this a NASCAR experience. And it's one person takes the wheel off, the other person's getting the tire iron out, the other person's getting the pump out, and all of a sudden you have 4 people fixing 1 flat tire, and it's whoa, that didn't take long at all, let's go. Versus, moping and pouting about it, and we've done some really fast flat tire changes, and you make adversity into a positive, and everything just seems to go a little bit better. And so you're gonna half the teams out there are gonna have a flat tire. It's just things like that.
Your food might get wet in the paddling section. Now you have no Oreos, and you have to eat your teammates' food. It happens. Yes?
Question on the mandatory gear checkpoint.
Yes.
If we keep some of our mandatory items on our bike, I mean, do they all have to be in our pack and on our persons at all times?
Great question. So, the question is about mandatory gear. If you get to, do you have to carry every single thing at every single point of the race, right, to be prepared for a gear check? You do need to carry the individual mandatory gear at all times. So that's like your beanie, your base layer top, your base layer bottoms, rain pants, rain jacket, that kind of stuff. But your biking specific mandatory gear, that only needs to be with you on the bike. So you don't need to do the entire race in your bike helmet. You just need to have that on your bike. So we won't check for gear that you're not required to have at that point or points. Does that make sense?
Basically, so all the bike stuff can be physically on the bike, and then
Yes.
everything else has to be on you.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
You don't need to carry the canoe with you the entire race, but you do need to have it on the paddling section. Same with the PFD and a paddle.
So basically, the simple answer is you'll have to have your individual mandatory gear and your team mandatory gear with the team at all times. Then, if we did the check during the bike, then you'd have your bike mandatory gear with you on the bike. But if you're on a trekking section, we're not going to ask you for your bike.
Well, you're like your spare tube and your patch kit and all that.
Correct.
Just
Stays
keep it
with your bike.
Anything that's related to the bike, keep with the bike. And then all the other, then paddle is itself, but then everything else is for the whole race.
If you have a flat tire, I guess you have to keep your bad tube to prove that you had a tube.
Your sad face will be enough proof. But yeah, you need to just, I mean, that's kind of...
But don't leave your tube in the ditch.
Yeah, leave no trace.
Leave no trace. But if you happen to have a flat tire and there's a garbage can in the area, consider yourself lucky, you know. But another piece of tire isn't a bad piece of property to fix something else either. Because it's like all of a sudden you had 3 more flat tires and those were blowouts or cutouts and you still have one with just a pinprick. You can patch that one and still go. Worst case scenario, of course, but it's like, you never know. Or when we were studying the course, we encountered this poor guy that had either really dislocated his shoulder, I'm thinking he broke his collarbone, but he was using a spare tube to wrap his arm so that he could ride out. And I was like, that's a genius maneuver for a spare tube to make a sling so that you could ride your bike out. I just tied a knot in it and put it around his neck. And I was like, that. Good job.
What other questions?
I think we're kind of done, so it's open forum here.
The bike drop?
Yeah.
Do we need to bring locks, or is there going to be supervision all the time?
There will be staff people watching your bikes.
Yep, and then, so the thing is the question was at the bike drop, do they need to be locked? We will have volunteers there from the time you drop them till the last bike is gone. The other thing is if you happen to go to an area during the race where you will drop the bike again to go do something else, we will have volunteers there that will watch over your stuff. So you really don't need a bike lock for this event unless you're like super concerned about it, but you shouldn't need a lock.
What else? That's it? Everyone's prepared? Carpe Friday? Okay, cool. So yeah, that's it from us. We'll see you Friday between 4 and 8. Race week, guys. Super excited. Have a great week.
All right.